Chapter 9. Arrest. The soldiers jerked Papa away. Suzette watched them disappear into one of the fort buildings with D'Amboise. The door slammed behind them. The onlookers wandered away, muttering to one another, looking at her. Suzette felt helpless as a snared rabbit. "Suzette!" Monsieur Hussein had to shout her name before she realized he was standing beside her. "Come inside." The clerk pulled her toward the store. He had to turn a key in a big lock before they went inside, and he shut the door behind them, a sign of how shocking the day's events were. Hussein never closed the shop so early. That closed door seemed to slam in Suzette's heart. Hot tears spilled down her cheeks. "Why did they arrest Papa?" she demanded, scrubbing at the tears with her fist. "What proof does Captain D'Amboise think he has?" Hussein led her toward his stool. "Sit down. I'll tell you everything. I want you to hear it from me, not those telling tales outside." He took a deep breath. "This afternoon, 2 of our soldiers were cutting firewood on the interior of the island. They found a bundle of furs hidden behind a tree. That's not so unusual, but because of the theft, the soldiers brought them to me. There were a couple of rabbit pelts and an otter, but there was also one beaver pelt. This is it." The clerk pushed the pelt toward her. It lay first side down on the counter. The skin had been washed and scraped free of flesh and fat, stretched into a neat oval, and dried stiff as a slice of pine, just like any pelt. But Suzette's hand shook as she turned the skin over. The animal had been trapped in deep winter, perhaps the moon of crusted snow, for the dark fur was lush and thick. Running down the middle of the pelt was something she'd never before seen, a golden streak. "There's one more of those pelts to come in," Dupree had said. Suzette shoved the pelt away as though it burned her fingers. "What of this?" she demanded. "Yes, it's one of the stolen furs, but you must listen to me." Quickly she told him what she had overheard in Dupree's camp. Dupree said he had 2 of the striped pelts already safe in some cave, and he said there's one more of those to come in, but don't look for any more after that. Our man said they came from somewhere west of here. Suzette sputtered into silence. She hadn't said anything that would clear Papa. "Anyway, what does this pelt," she gestured angrily, "have to do with Papa? Why should anyone believe he took it?" The soldiers found something with the pelts, dropped by the man who put them there. Hussein's eyes were sad as he opened his palm. Something small fell on the counter. A silver cross hanging from a band of fine blue, red, and yellow wool, finger-woven in an ornate lightning pattern. Papa's crucifix, the one he had brought from Montreal and kept on the band Mama had woven for him, hung at his waist. I recognized the cross. I had to tell the captain. "Papa said he had lost it," Suzette interrupted furiously. "Someone must have found it and—" "But there's more." Hussein formed the words as if with great effort. "I went with the captain and the soldiers to your family's lodge. At first your father denied everything. But when Captain D'Amboise began to question Yellow Wing, your father confessed." "I don't believe you." "Suzette, I was there. He said Yellow Wing had nothing to do with it. 'I'm your man,' he said. 'I'm the man you have been looking for.'" Suzette felt tears come again. She jumped from the stool, pulled open the door, and ran. "Suzette, I'm sorry," her friend called after her. But she didn't turn around. "It's all my fault. It's all my fault." The words pounded in her head as she ran from the fort, away from the camp, toward the lake shore. Papa had stayed on the island because of her. If she hadn't begged to stay, if they had left the island, perhaps Papa wouldn't be locked up in some small room. Papa who loved fresh air and open water and room to dance and sing. Her lungs began to burn, and she stopped running. The distant call of a loon echoed over the lake, and she wished her family could paddle away, follow that loon. She pictured her family, hurt, confused, angry. Perhaps grandmother was telling Mama she shouldn't have married a Frenchman. Suzette wasn't ready to face them. Gabrielle. She'd find Gabrielle. She slipped back around the fort to the Ojibwe camp. Fortunately, Gabrielle's lodge was not in sight of Suzette's own. She found Gabrielle's father painting new designs on his paddle, but he scrambled up when he saw her. "Ah, Suzette," he said sadly, and she knew that he had already seen or heard what happened. "I don't believe these tales for a moment. None of your papa's old friends do, eh? When you see him, tell him we miss him around the fires at night. I'll tell him, she mumbled. Is Gabrielle about? Gabrielle took the little ones to play on the beach. Merci, Suzette said in thanks. She found her friend sitting on a rock at the lake shore, watching her two younger sisters wade in the shallows. Gabrielle! I heard what happened, her friend interrupted. Her dark eyes were sad. Suzette sat down beside her, avoiding her gaze. It's not true. Papa could not have done this bad thing. Suzette, Gabrielle hesitated. I know your papa is a good man, but he was desperate to win the competition, wasn't he? He wanted to keep your family together. No! The word struck like flint on a fire steel. He did not do this. Gabrielle rubbed a bone of driftwood nervously. Iya, I believe you. But why did you tell Captain D'Amboise he was the one? People are saying that he said... I know what he said. Monsieur Roussain told me that he confessed. It was hard even to say the word. Why had Papa said he was the one? I don't know why Papa would say such a thing, Gabrielle, but there must be an explanation. I'm sure there is, Gabrielle said loyally, although she still looked uncertain. Suzette drew a deep breath, sifting sand through her fingers. And there's even more. She told Gabrielle about Papa's crucifix. It looks bad, I know, but I know my Papa. He is not a thief. Can you talk to him? Captain D'Amboise has locked him up. I saw him just as they led him inside the fort, but he wouldn't look at me. Suzette would not admit aloud that her father had looked ashamed. His head hung low. I guess Captain D'Amboise will keep Papa locked up for a short time, while they ask him questions. But then... She swallowed hard. You know what the captain said. We'll have to leave La Pointe. I don't know where we'll go, Gabrielle. A sudden lump in her throat choked off her words. If Papa was banished, would she ever see Gabrielle again? Oh, Suzette. Gabrielle bowed her head, but not before Suzette saw tears glistening on her dark lashes. Suzette looked over the lake, blinking back her own tears. Beyond the splashing girls, the water moved restlessly, fading into the horizon. The sun was just starting to sink in the western sky, just as all her hopes for the future were sinking. No! Suzette pounded her fist on her knee, unwilling to admit defeat. Someone is doing this to us, she said. I don't know who, or why, but someone is trying to get Papa in trouble. Someone damaged Papa's canoe. And someone found Papa's silver cross and left it with the stolen furs. But how could that person have known that the soldiers would find them? Suzette chewed that over. It's not so hard, really. The soldiers have been cutting firewood. They don't go any farther than they have to. All someone had to do was see where they left off cutting one day. It wouldn't be hard to guess where they'd be the next day. Her friend nodded thoughtfully. And Gabrielle, I haven't even told you what else happened today. Quickly, Suzette described Dupree's camp and what she had overheard. And so they are hiding the rest of the stolen furs in a cave, she finished. Did your brother tell you anything about caves? Is there a cave on the island? He said no, unless some of the rocks along the shore form a small cave. But where, Suzette persisted. Almost all of the island shoreline was rocky. She clenched her fists in frustration. Gabrielle shook her head. That's all he knew about caves. He did tell me something else, though, about Niskigwan. Gabrielle looked over her shoulder, then leaned closer. His wife was a Dakota, and Dakota is a different tribe. What? Suzette could hardly believe it. The Dakota people to the west had always been enemies of the Ojibwe. Gabrielle nodded excitedly. Think about it. Niskigwan was married to one of our enemies. Niskigwan is a bad one, Suzette agreed slowly. But that doesn't prove he's the thief. She thought for a moment. Gabrielle, I have to find Dupree's cave. What can you learn there? Suzette didn't have a good answer ready. Maybe Dupree keeps records, like Monsieur Roussain's ledgers. Or maybe once I find the cave, I can hide and see who comes to do business with Dupree. I don't know, but anything is better than sitting still while Captain D'Amboise holds Papa prisoner. Suzette took a deep breath, determined to follow the only plan she could think of. If your brother's right, the cave must be somewhere along the shoreline. It seems to me that the easiest way to begin searching for it is from the water. Will you come canoeing with me tomorrow? Gabrielle hesitated. I want to help, but Dupree sounds like a dangerous man. We won't get in any trouble, Suzette promised recklessly. We'll be careful. Please, Gabrielle. She held her breath. She needed Gabrielle to help paddle. Well, I'll have to ask Mama, but she'll probably say yes. Gabrielle turned and studied the shoreline. What direction will we go in? This is a big island. We can't paddle all the way around it tomorrow. Suzette tipped her head to one side, considering. Dupree and Mikhail's camp was on the east side of the island, but the island was narrow, and the men were no doubt strong and well used to hauling or paddling heavy loads for long distances. The cave at Gull Rock could be anywhere. In frustration, she picked up a stone, ready to hurl it into the water. Something made her pause. She turned it over in her palm. It was a small stone, rippling red and gray, smooth as polished wood. She had a sudden memory of herself as a young child, and her Ojibwe grandfather telling her that beach stones were once rough, but had been worn smooth by the waves. It can't be, she had protested. The stone is hard, and the water soft. It's the water that gives. Grandfather shook his head. Keep this stone, he said, handing Suzette the pebble. Let it remind you that water can wear away stone. The water needs only patience and persistence. Patience and persistence, Suzette thought now. She had kept the pebble tucked safely in a fringed pouch that held her most treasured possessions. I'll carry it with me tomorrow, she thought. If water can wear away stone, I can figure out who is doing these terrible things. I don't know which direction we should paddle, she admitted, but I'll figure something out. Now I should go. Mama doesn't even know I'm back. I'll walk with you, Gabrielle said. The girls have been playing long enough. Aye! She got the two girls' attention and waited for a moment while they scampered about for a few last minutes to test their sister's patience. Suzette was just about to tell her friend that she couldn't wait any longer when she saw a canoe glide around the point from the east and angle toward the beach. As the canoe drew near, Gabrielle hissed something under her breath. Suzette froze, staring. There were two men in the canoe, Niskigwan and Big Nicholas. It was a quiet night on the island. Even the voyageurs were still, as if they could not sing, knowing one of their own was in trouble. In Suzette's lodge, the silence was terrible. Suzette tried to take comfort from her resolve to keep searching for the real thief, but the pained look in Mama's eyes made it hard to think of anything except Papa's banishment. Captain D'Amboise had told Mama that Papa would be held in the fort for 14 suns. When he was released, he would have to leave La Pointe. Mama did not say what would happen to the family then, and Suzette was afraid to ask. There was no answer she wanted to hear. She tossed fitfully on her blankets, tormented by her thoughts. We will have nowhere to go, she thought. We will be welcome nowhere. She felt like a baby sparrow fallen from the nest. What would they do? Wander by themselves into the western country, where they would be strangers? Would Papa leave them after all and go back to Montreal? Either way, Mama and Grandmother and Yellow Wing could perhaps make a home for themselves somewhere among the Ojibwe. They could lose themselves, blend in among the others. But where was she to go? A black-haired, blue-eyed girl who was both French and Ojibwe, and neither?